911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
Be advised, Car 4 has control of the pursuit. Proceed with caution.
Hey everybody, welcome to Behind the Crime Door. It's good to see you guys. It's been a minute and sorry I'm late, but yeah, I've been rushing around trying to get some things done, and I was in Delphi on Thursday and Friday and back last night, and so it's just been crazy. Right before Christmas, just a lot going on in my own personal life as well. And it's just been wild. As you guys know, the holidays are stressful times for a lot of people, and I am one included. I have a surprise for everyone tonight because I have two guests I have that I'm going to have on with me tonight to talk about the sentencing. And I do have something that I'm going to read before we all get started on this. But let me introduce my guests to you guys first. Please do not think that I'm ignoring anyone. For everyone who's here that's new, that's never been to my channel before, welcome. Thank you. Please be respectful of each other, of my guests, and most definitely the families. I will not put up with any bashing of these people, and in any way, shape, or form. Just so you guys know, there's a lot that's been going on. I just found something out before I came on live that has me already upset, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But I'm thankful that you're all here. I will say hello to you guys in a little while, but I'm going to get the show started because I'm already late. Look who this is.
I'm sitting here texting the hell out of her. Where the hell you at? I'm like, well, did you forget? Did you fall asleep? Hey, Nicole. Hey, it's good to see
Hey, Frank.
you. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm always good, girl.
So for those of you that don't know, this is my daughter. You guys, some of you know her as Shelby. She was always in my chats as Shelby, but she's truly
It's
my
just
Nicole.
easier.
She's truly my Nicole. She will always be my Nicole. Yeah, I really wanted her to be here with me to talk about this. She's heard me talk about this case for nearly 8 years. She's got an interest in it as well, and we all know how Frank feels. I stood at Libby's grave with Frank yesterday before I left Delphi, and we both had some real emotional tears as we talked to Libby and thanked her for.
It still makes me choked up.
I know. Had it not been for her, you guys, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be to this day. She's the one. She and Abby are the heroes in all of this. Don't ever forget that when you guys are talking about this case, or if you're trying to tell someone about the case, make sure that you let them know who the real heroes are here, and it's the girls. Because had they not had the wherewithal to do the video
and to hide the phone,
and to hide the phone, I don't believe that he would have ever gotten caught. I really don't think that we would ever have caught him. And so with that, here we are. And I had to get that out there because it was God, it was cold yesterday in Delphi, and it's cold. Man, and it's cold here today again. How are you?
I'm always good.
How was your football day?
It ain't over. Ohio State's playing Tennessee right now.
Oh, me, and you're spending the day with me?
Hey, I got to.
I love it. I love it. How are you, Nicole?
Tired.
Are you ready for Christmas?
No, I still have wrapping to do, and yeah.
I figured that you were.
It'll happen whether I'm ready or not. So
I figured that you were rushing. I figured you were rushing.
Like, Mom, get the shit done.
Well, 2 of my kids are old enough; they help. They're Santa's elves.
We can sign up for this, Mom.
That's good. That's good. So we are going to talk about the sentencing. We're going to talk about the fact that the case has come full circle, in my opinion. And there was a lot said yesterday at the post-sentencing press conference by the detectives, because I know they had an input into what Nick said. And, we heard from the top cop in Indiana. We heard from Doug Carter yesterday. Everybody's been wanting to hear from Doug Carter for a long time. And
he was not happy.
He was not a happy man. And I don't think that people quite understood how he was going to come at this. And I'm really glad he did. I'm glad he said the things that he did. But we already are seeing that people aren't going to listen. We knew that was going to be the way it was, that people were going to listen to the family's request for peace, for everyone to accept the verdict, for everyone to accept the sentence, and let this family move on. Let this family try to have some peace and some healing, because it's been hell on wheels, just every day for the last nearly 8 years for them. And we're going to get into that. But before we do, you guys, I do want to take the time out to say that I have Kelsey German Siebert's victim impact statement in my hands, and I am going to read it. I want everyone to hear what Kelsey wrote to the court. She was very eloquent in this letter that she wrote to Judge Gull. She was not at court yesterday. She was on a planned trip.
Hold on. Be right back. Holman's calling.
Okay, good. So she was on a planned trip to Florida and I'm glad that she was able to go ahead and take it. But this is the letter. Dear Honorable Judge Gull, I have written this letter nearly 45 times since I was 17. Today, I'm 24 years old and feel no words can truly fully articulate what our families have endured over the last nearly 8 years. Because of the actions of the defense, this letter is a culmination of all of those letters and the feelings I have had throughout this process and what it means to me today that the monster responsible for taking Abby and Libby from us stays in prison for the remainder of his life. I believe the best place to start is to tell you about February the 12th of 2017. This is the date that bookends the period of my life with Libby, my sister, my best friend. This day felt so normal. Looking back now, I wish I had lived more in it. That night, Libby and Abby spent the evening with my friends and me watching movies before heading off upstairs to bed. I will never forget their laughter and their smiles as they enjoyed their time together. Though I do recall feeling rather annoyed that they were being so loud and using my Netflix account. I wish I was hearing those same laughs today instead of writing these words. The morning of February 13th felt very much the same as that evening. We had the day off of school, so I slept in and my dad made breakfast. And I had plans with my boyfriend before work that evening. I was in the bathroom when Libby walked in, and our relationship was like this, our whole lives, an open door policy. If she needed me, no matter what, how small or insignificant the reason, she came to me. And that morning was no different. As always, she wanted to go somewhere. She wanted to go out and do something. She needed her chauffeur. She asked me to take her and Abby to High Bridge to walk the trails and take some pictures with them. I had already made plans for the day, so I agreed to drop them off if they could get a ride back to the house. Once she told me she had secured and made arrangements for my dad to pick them up, we headed off. At the time, arriving at the Mears entrance to the trails, I was in a hurry and ready to be at my boyfriend's house. Even still, I made sure that the girls took jackets with them and told them to be careful. As our family always did, Libby said, "We will. I love you." I told her I loved her too, and I would see her later. The most normal exchange turned into a goodbye forever. And we didn't even know that at the time. That evening, our worlds were turned upside down. The moment Libby didn't answer her phone, we knew that something was wrong. She always had her phone in her hand. She never went anywhere without it. I don't even remember a time when she didn't answer the phone on the first or second ring. And it was even less like her to be where she said she would be when she was supposed to be. Our community banded together, searching for them until they were found the next day. And we continue to hold each other through this to this day. February 13th was the start of life without Libby, even before we knew that was what it was. See, you heard countless hours of testimony about the search efforts, about the people that were there, about the area of the bridge, but you didn't hear about how that night started, of a lifetime of heartache and trauma for so many who loved Abby and Libby. That night, I slept in my grandparents' bed. My grandpa was still out, and Grandma and me were at home awaiting a phone call or a knock on the door without answers. This was the first of many sleepless nights awaiting for answers. On the 14th, when the girls were found, we were given more unknowns. Who would do something like this? Who could do something like this? Why our girls? Why our town? Where was this person now? I remember feeling so scared and helpless. I ran on so little sleep and could hardly eat, even though strangers were bringing us the best smelling food. It was worse when I was alone. I couldn't turn the lights off and be in the dark room without imagining this monster breaking into our home or watching us from the woods outside. So my grandparents moved a twin bed into their room for me. I slept there for months before I had the courage to go back upstairs at night, when even then I would sneak back downstairs and sleep on the couch to be closer to them if Bree and Chase weren't staying with us. Eventually, the twin bed was taken out of my grandparents' room, and I started feeling safe once again. We got a security system. We went to self-defense classes. We practiced shooting guns, all things we would never have ever considered before. But when the pictures and audio from Libby's phone were released to the public, the nightmares came. Prior to that day, I had been shielded from reality. This somehow made it even more real to me that a stranger had murdered my sister and Abby. This faceless, grainy figure became the subject of my nightmares. I would wake up drenched in sweat, my heart racing. Still, he would chase me in those woods for what felt like hours while I attempted to save Libby and Abby, but I was never able to reach them. In some of the nightmares, I was with them that day, walking the trails, and I died alongside them. Truly, part of me did every time I would wake up before seeing his face, and without knowing what had happened to them, I went to therapy session after therapy session to work through those nightmares. And not all that ever came out of them was more and more sorrow and a PTSD diagnosis that will never go away. I didn't leave the house much in the year following Libby and Abby's murder, especially not alone. When I did, I was constantly watching the people around me, paranoid that any man that passed me could be the man from Libby's video. The number of pictures I had taken of random cars, men, license plates had to have been in the hundreds. Even when I went to college, I would find myself in tears while I was walking to class because I was so afraid of the strangers around me, eventually leading me to transfer to a university closer to Delphi. Little did I know that the monster was hiding in plain sight, right there in the very community I called home. Life went on in some ways. I went to prom that year, not without persuasion from my friends who wanted to help me get back to a normal life. I graduated from high school. I went on to college. I went through a breakup, and I met my husband, all without knowing what happened to Libby and Abby. But life also stopped as Libby and Abby's friends grew older. They remained 13 and 14 to our families. We still had to live the reality that there was a monster out there somewhere. We did the only thing that made sense at the time: make the monster's life so small that he'd have to be identified by someone. We talked to every news station and media person who would talk to us. We put up flyers in every county in Indiana. We put decals on semis. We covered our community in ribbons and pictures of the man from Libby's phone. There was nowhere he could go without seeing himself looking back at him. In doing this, thousands of web sleuths started helping us in our search for justice. Good and bad, these people looked at every person under a microscope, and especially our family. These armchair detectives would bash our family in online groups, dissecting our lives as if they knew us, truly believing that we were hiding something. To them, my very grandparents were awful people. They believed that I knew more than I was telling them. We were murderers and abusers. Strangers on the internet were saying these things about me and the people I loved most. But they had no idea who we were. Life stopped. My grandma became so consumed in Facebook groups, reading every single post and watching every single video. She would spend hours watching live streams, wanting to hear every single thing that was being said. This would go on until Richard Allen was arrested and even after. We didn't blame her. We still don't. There was never a right way to go about any of this. But this is just another example of how his choice to take the lives of Abby and Libby created a ripple effect in the lives of those who loved them. I don't think I really saw my grandma really smile again until many years later. Even though we knew none of the things they were saying were true or based on fact, it was still hard to read. And their words are permanently out there in the world for people to find. October 22nd, or October of 2022, we were notified about the arrest of Richard Allen. We had waited for so many years for this day to come. It didn't feel real or exciting. We didn't want to get our hopes up, but we knew the team working on this case would not make an official arrest without being completely sure they had the right guy. For me, it only took looking at his picture to know it was him. I looked in his eyes and there was nothing there. There was no soul behind them. Even looking at him now, I don't believe there is. A month later, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. A blessing our family didn't know that we needed. My husband and I hadn't planned on starting our family so soon, and I had promised Libby and myself that I wouldn't bring a baby into this world without being able to tell them what happened to the aunt that they would never get to know. God really knew we needed this girl. The moment that she was born, I saw my grandma smile for the first time in over 6 years. She has brought us so much joy in some of the darkest of moments. Though she will never get to meet her Aunt Libby, I know that Libby got to meet her first. I am certain she was handpicked and that her siblings will be also. She reminds us so much of Libby. Her ability to make all of those around her smile. Her giggle brings happiness to every room. She gives the best hugs and somehow, even as a toddler, knows when you need one. She doesn't know a stranger and she wants to be everyone's best friend. It is a true travesty that she won't get to experience life with Libby. I know they would have been the best duo. I also know that someday my children will inevitably Google Libby's name, wanting to know more about this person I will no doubt talk so much about. When they do, I am heartbroken at what they will find. Not only will they see hurtful things about their mom and other family members, but because of the defense team and their lack of professionalism, they will no doubt find graphic images of Libby and Abby. They will read cruel court documents written by the defense that do not accurately depict the facts of this case, but rather a version of theory that cannot be backed up by the evidence or logic. I will do everything in my power to shield them from these, but if nothing else, Richard Allen remaining in prison gives me peace of mind that they are safe from at least one monster. When Richard Allen was arrested, a chapter in our lives was able to close and a new one opened. We stopped talking publicly and we were able to find a new normal as we worked through a new avenue of grief. Our lives were on pause as we awaited the trial, leaning learning new information regarding the case against him slowly. When the day finally arrived that the trial would start, we prepared for the worst and held on to each other as we had the whole 7 years prior. The sigh of relief we felt when the guilty verdict was read could be felt throughout the community. Our families remained steadfast in our fight for justice over the years. Even when the possibility of answers seemed hard to imagine, we kept our eyes on the goal of never letting the killer win. He took Abby and Libby's lives. He took them from their families, their friends, and all the people who should have been able to experience knowing them. He changed the futures of so many people's lives, but he didn't get to take their voices. We get to continue to be those voices for them every day. He didn't tear apart our families. He tore apart his own. He didn't take our lives from us. He took away the lives imagined by all those who loved him. And in his attempt to find a way out, the actions of his defense team led to more loss of life. The monster who had taken over my nightmares for so long was caught. The grainy image and voice that we had focused all of our efforts to find was finally identified. He didn't win, and he holds no power over Abby and Libby or their families. At trial, Richard Allen's confession he made were played for the jury and for the public to hear. In these, he said he found God in prison. I don't believe him for a second. But if this is true, I hope he takes whatever sentence he is given and lets our family find peace and learn to live in this new normal we have found ourselves in. He can't eat. He can eat Post-it notes and act as if he has gone insane as much as he wants to. That will not change what he did to the girls that day. It will not give him an ounce of sympathy from me. I am forever grateful for the men and women who spent years investigating this case and the prosecution team who put their hearts into bringing this case against Richard Allen to trial. Without their never wavering dedication, we would not be here. And the monster responsible for the murders of Abby and Libby would not be sitting behind bars today. They could have put this case on the back burner, though we never would have let them. But they chose to dedicate hours of their time to turn down promotions that would have advanced their careers, put off retirement, and take time away from their families to bring resolution and justice for Abby and Libby. May Richard Allen spend the rest of his days in prison, suffering slowly through each of them. Kelsey German Siebert. I know that was a lot to hear, but I thought it was important. Kelsey's voice has been silenced for so long. She has every right to now say how she felt. And that letter that she wrote to the court, to me, was so poignant. I am so proud of the woman that she has become. We watched her grow up before our very eyes, and we watched her grow up too quickly in so many ways. She
was forced to grow up way too quick. Way too quick.
She was a shy girl, and she has become a strong woman, just like her grandmother. What do you take away from that, Frank? Hearing what she said.
The fact that she wasn't going to let the community or any of these assholes, basically bring her down. She was an adult through this whole circumstance at a young age. And she's still young, guys. She's
24.
only 24 years old, you know.
And
she
she's
had
a
to grow
mother.
up. Exactly. You know, Kelsey stayed away from the limelight for a reason, because she knew if she got mixed up in the limelight, it was going to be even worse for her. So she stayed away. As you can see, you don't find her on Facebook. Well, you do, but she doesn't respond to anybody. She's on X. She doesn't respond to nobody there, you know. So that's the best thing she could have done.
Well, she had to. She was trying to be there and trying to have a presence, and they wouldn't let her. I mean, they would continually, bash her and say that she took the girls, to the trails and that she was part of it, that she was there. I mean, all the things that they said, the horrible things that they said about this family is just mind-boggling. And the sad thing is it's still going on.
Yes.
It is still going on.
Yep.
Just right before I came on live, Frank told me about another instance of where the crime scene photos have been released and shared. I don't understand why we're still talking about this and why we have to continue to talk about why this is disgusting. And it was brought up. It was brought up in court by the families. It was in their victim impact statements. They all talked about this. It was brought up by Doug Carter. It was brought up by Nick McClelland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Nick McClelland has said anybody that shares these photos, they're going to get prosecuted to every extent of the law if he can. And he intends to go after them. So if you guys are out, the 12 jurors that matter, that narrative, the people that are mad because Richard Allen was found guilty and has been sentenced to 130 years in prison.
There we go.
Just because it didn't follow the narrative that you wanted it to, you're entitled to believe whatever you want. But in this country, that's justice. He was found guilty by 12 jurors. And no, it wasn't 12 jurors from Carroll County. These were 12 jurors from Fort Wayne, Indiana. How could you can get, people are like, oh, it's all been fixed. It's all rigged. Give me a break.
What kills me is they're trying to still use this third party. And I did watch a show. I don't know if it was on TV or if it was on YouTube. A creator had a professor who has 30 years knowledge of Nordic, pagan, and Odinism. And he said there has never been a
ritualistic killing
in the United States ever. In the world.
In the history of the world that they were aware of, not from Odinists.
And then you get that chick on fucking Bob Mata's show last night saying the same shit, but she couldn't tell us who the person was, who committed it, where it took place. I mean, they are doing this because they have nothing else to do on their show, and they know they can get paid by doing this crap. Well, I'm here to tell you
about that. I mean, we've talked about some of it. How do you feel about some of that?
About what? Be more specific.
The narrative stuff about people not wanting to accept the verdict, not wanting to accept the sentence, that want to run with the Odinist angle and all the crazy.
Well, I think
no evidence of any of this.
Right. And I think that's what it boils down to is you have to follow the evidence. You can't follow what you think happened and make the evidence fit that, because that's where you get into this line of trouble where people are accusing people who are innocent, or even if you think that somebody did it, you can't just come out and throw them under the bus. Like, because you have no facts, you have no proof.
Well, they sure did that in this case.
Well, they do it it's not just this case, but yes.
No, but I'm just saying they sure did that in this case. Even before the Odinists, I mean, we had many different people's names that were thrown out under the bus.
No, I get that. But what I'm saying is, like, you and I talked about it today. When you're sitting there as a accused person in a court of law, and they tell you you're going to spend 130 years in jail and you're innocent, what's your reaction going to be?
I'm going to absolutely lose my mind. I'm going to cry. I'm going to get
cry. You're going to
get
be
emotional.
mad,
I'm going to be
gonna
whatever.
Angry, whatever.
He did nothing.
Right. And see, I was thinking that he
He
didn't have
sat
no
there.
emotion.
He sat there
had no
as
reaction
stoic.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, if you're an innocent person and you're sitting there,
I'm gonna bawl my eyes out if I'm looking up. It says
Right.
130 years. Like, what the fuck, mommy?
Well, and even if you're sitting there as an innocent person listening to victim statements, you're gonna have an emotional reaction to that.
Oh,
And
he
you
was
had
paying
none.
attention. He was watching and listening to him.
Well, listening, but you're still gonna have an emotion. I mean, I myself sat here and cried when she was reading Kelsey's statement. So, but I lost a sibling, so
I know.
I understand where she's
Right.
You have all
coming
of that.
from. Right.
You
Like,
have the PTSD.
well, it's
have
not
all
just
of
the PTSD, but when she was talking about, finding out that she was pregnant with her daughter, that's almost me and my oldest. Like, we weren't planning on having a baby then. And
you found
lo
out
and
you were
behold,
pregnant. Found out you were pregnant on your brother's birthday.
I did. And so, and then realizing that you have to go through all those things without that person. And then in my case, I named my son after my brother. So now you have to, you explain, and you're always talking. Granted, my brother didn't die in tragedy like this, but it's still a loss that you have to explain to them. And, we're not the type of family, and I imagine that Kelsey is very much like we are, there's probably pictures of her all over.
Right.
And so my kids see pictures of my brother, like, well, who is that?
Why haven't I ever met him?
Yeah, that's your uncle. Well, where is he?
Where is he? Why don't I get to see him?
And then you relive it every single time.
Every single day.
And, milestones happen. She had her wedding day and her sister wasn't there.
Yep.
She graduated from high school and her sister wasn't there. She graduated from college and her sister wasn't there. She had a baby and there's always that hole that never goes away.
Well, yeah. I mean, even though my eldest son lives in Germany, and we named him Philip Jason, we gave him the middle name of my middle brother. My middle brother passed away 2 years ago. So every time I talk to Philip, I think of my brother, So, yeah.
Well, I will say this, I just was looking at chat, and people are talking about Court TV and Vinnie Politan, and I saw that he had Bob Mata on. I clicked on it. I started to listen to it, and they were still talking about the all of the misinformation and the stuff that's not fact-based. And I thought to myself, are you kidding me, Vinny? Really? You're doing all of this for clicks, for watches. The Court TV should be ashamed of themselves. And that's just exactly how I feel.
And guess who's working for them
anymore?
And guess who's working for them? Barbara McDonald.
Oh, we know Barbara is. And I told you yesterday, maybe you weren't sitting right there because you were walking around doing your great reporting at the press conference. But when Barbara stood up and asked the question of Nick and said, are you going to finally clear the individuals now? You know who she was talking about. I was surprised she didn't say his name. I'm surprised she didn't say Ron Logan.
Yeah.
I'm surprised she didn't say it. But she didn't. She just said the individuals, and he just kind of looked at her, kind of like, what? What I mean? Kind of like, why are we talking about this? Why are you still talking about this?
And everybody's asking me, why did you ask Nick that specific question? And I said it had to be asked because Nick brought it up in court.
Yep.
That there was possible other actors involved. And I asked him to, would you please explain yourself on what you meant? And he did. And I asked him right after that, I said, so is that the reasoning for the amendment of the charges? And he basically said yes. So Y'all listen to what Nick said when I asked the question. I won't say it.
Well, it's just, it's like I said, there are people out there that, we said it, this is a free country. Nick said that. This is
Right.
a free country. We live in a country where people can say what's on their mind and where people get to say what, there's other countries you wouldn't get away with some of the stuff that people say and do. And we just have to remind ourselves that it's up to us and our choices of who we watch and what information we allow to be taken in. And if people in the true crime community want to watch true crime because it's entertainment to them and they like this kind of stuff, fine. But
those are deranged people.
Those people need serious help, in my opinion, because this is real life. These are real people. I saw broken families and broken people throughout this case, trying to desperately navigate, not knowing for years what happened to their girls.
Well, and I think that's what people, especially those who are sharing crime scene photos,
oh my God,
need to think about. One, you're missing the big picture, because what is showing those pictures doing for anything in help of the defense of the convicted? Nothing. It's not going to help. Second, you are re-victimizing the victims regardless of who committed the crime. It does. At that point, your view doesn't really matter. You're re-victimizing two young girls that don't deserve that. And how would you feel if that was your child? Because and these aren't the first girls that this has happened to, or the first children who have had horrific deaths that this has happened to.
John Benet Ramsey
yes.
is a 6-year-old little girl, 6 years old, and her autopsy and crime scene photos are all over the internet.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot I could say, but it's YouTube and you'll get
what?
So.
I don't give a damn what YouTube has to say. I'm going to say what I'm going to be Frank. Frank's going to be Frank.
Frank does Frank.
That's right.
No,
you who gave me that name? Holman did.
Yeah. Frank, you do you. I really, like I said, I mean, it was emotional being in the courtroom yesterday.
Oh.
I knew it was going to be gut-wrenching. It was.
I couldn't even take notes.
I mean, I started to take notes. Teddy and Turbo gave me paper, and Teddy gave me a pen because I left mine here on my couch at home, my notebook, my Delphi notebook. So they gave me what I needed, and I started to take notes, and then I couldn't because I was between the tears, the crying, and...
Give me a second.
Yeah.
Victor, if you got a question to Nicole, ask her straight out. She's not a judge. She's giving her personal opinion. Okay? So if you want to talk shit, you can just see your ass way out of this chat. And I'm not trying
Victor?
to be a dick. He's in the chat.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I was just ignoring him.
Oh, I keep an eye on her in my chat when we're
No,
live.
Victor's not. She's not a judge, but she plays one on TV.
I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Does that count?
She got her law degree out of the Cracker Jack box off Google University.
We teach criminal justice at my school. Does that count?
Jackie met you at the walk. Jackie just said, she's saying hi to you.
Oh, hi, Jackie.
She goes, forgive me with all due respect. She forgot to say hi to you earlier.
It's okay.
Miranda was about to delete him.
Well, I mean, that was kind of rude because we all know that Nicole's not a judge.
I probably have more experience with law and stuff than he does, though, to be honest.
I would say so. And I've learned a lot about the laws in this state ever since this case arose. You know what I mean?
And
I'm
sad,
thinking there's many times when Frank and I've had conversations, even behind the scenes, where we think we've learned more by reading the law through the internet and reading the statutes from Indiana on the internet than Baldwin and Rosie know.
Yeah, that drives me crazy.
I
With
mean, there's the
Rosie.
stuff that they should know as practicing attorneys that they don't seem to know. It's like, what?
How clear can the law be when it says you cannot use third party unless you got actual physical evidence putting them at the scene?
You have to have
Corgi
proof.
Mama wants to know if the defense reacted at all with the truthful arrows directed at them. Oh my goodness, did they? One of the most amazing things that happened, and I thought it was hilarious, was when
Baldwin right here.
Becky Patty is going at them. Look, I mean, she is just feet from them, and she is letting them have it. And Baldwin is got his arm around Richard Allen like this, and all you can see is this. He just keeps getting smaller and smaller,
sliding down in his chair,
himself underneath the defense table.
Lay, that's enough.
I thought that was Loki.
No, Loki doesn't bark. Not like that. He did it, Neil, though, when Neil hugged me, Nicole. It was hilarious.
He's protective.
Yeah.
I think that what people need to remember is, even as a defense attorney, you still have to keep the integrity of the case, which they failed to do. Before the trial even started, when they were leaking all these things they should have never leaked, that you lose all credibility.
Becky, she was right though when she was directing right at Baldwin. How would you like it if your child was murdered and you not accidentally, but left the crime scene photos out on the damn table and somebody just walked in and took them? How would you feel?
Right.
And then she looked over at Rosie and she said, and for you, Mr. Rosie, you went into the judge's chambers and said, I don't care if those photos did get released. And she said, really? Is that how you would feel if those were your little girls? Becky was a star. I mean, yes. She really, truly was. And I'll tell you, when it wrapped up, they couldn't have got their coats on quicker to get the heck out of Dodge, out of that courtroom. I mean, I don't know, Frank, how they left before. You were there most every day of the trial. But my God, I thought the sentencing, they ran out of there quick.
Oh, yeah, they did. It was the same way throughout the trial, too.
Well, let's hope if he does appeal for his own sake, he gets new attorneys.
He will, because she's got her. First of all, they're not appellate attorneys.
I know, but I'm just.
But oh God, no, I know. I think they offered, because last night at cards, you guys all know that I play cards with my best friend on Friday night, and her husband's the judge, my friend, the judge. Well, he was all about it. He wanted to know last night what went on, and I was talking to him about this, and we were talking about the appeal, and I said, I think I've already heard that the defense has offered the appellate attorney's help, and he just busted out laughing, and he goes, they'll be running to the hills away from this defense.
Well, team. I mean,
they don't want any of their help.
No.
We've all seen all the shenanigans they pulled, and it was filed through the Supreme Court, then it was filed through the appellate court. Yes, they got the case heard when they got thrown off the case by the Supreme Court, but when they filed the second one through the appellate, it didn't even make it to the justices. It went right to the administrative assistant, which is a judge. And he looked at him. I guarantee he just laughed and kicked it right back.
Yep.
Same thing is going to happen when they file this appeal.
Exactly. People don't seem to understand that appeals aren't automatic, and all that happens is, yes, he's got 30 days. She told him, you have 30 days from today to file your appeal. If you do not do that within that 30-day period, he supposedly loses his right to appeal. But my judge told me that's not going to happen, and that wouldn't happen because then you can claim malpractice because the appellate attorneys have to do it within that amount of time. So because it's not like the defendant has any way to do it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So once they're appointed, they have to do that for him within 30 days. Just because they file it
doesn't mean anything happens
mean
to it.
they're going to do anything with it. They may look at it and say, this has no merit, this has no merit, this has no merit.
You are guaranteed. So that's what people don't seem to understand. And that's one reason why, corporal punishment or capital punishment. I mean, when people are like, well, why does it take so long? So when you're convicted like that, you get appeal after appeal after appeal after appeal, and that's your right. So, but just because you do those appeals doesn't mean that you go to a trial or you go before a judge again, or, anything proved.
I don't know who Shelly is, but hi, Shelly. Thanks for that. But Bob Motta doesn't get to pick Richard Allen's attorneys unless he's going to pay for them. And all I'm saying is yesterday in court, when she asked him if he was going to get his own attorney, he said no, he can't afford it. And so therefore, she's appointing it to him. And that comes out of the
state
of Indiana.
Yeah.
So Bob Motta doesn't get to get one of his gang affiliate lawyers involved.
No.
I'm so sick of this crap with him. I mean, you talk about an ambulance chaser. That's what Bob Motta is. He's an ambulance chaser.
Okay, we got a question by somebody by the name of Brianna CC. She said, did they offer expert testimony on false confessions? Yes, they did. They sure did.
But there's never been ever a situation where a false confession was 61 times.
Ladies and gentlemen,
wake the hell up.
It doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen.
No. And y'all seem to forget. He made his very first confession November 22nd of 2022, well before he got his discovery, well before he started acting like a cuckoo. Come on. Think about it.
Oh, God.
I'm like, if I was Richard Allen sitting in that damn cell and I got my discovery and seen every damn thing I had on me, I'd fucking lose my marbles too. Like, goddamn, I'm fucked. Excuse my French.
But that was all an act. Again, he said it himself, you guys. It came out of his own mouth. They heard it. The jury heard it. He told them in prison, I'm not crazy. I'm just acting crazy. That's what he was telling the guards and the people around him in the prison. What more do you need to hear?
He's very calculating.
His own mouth.
From everything that I've seen,
he's manipulative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He is a master manipulator.
Yeah. Well, you would have to be. I mean, you and I have talked about it because people often forget in these cases, it's not just Abby and Libby's family that have been affected. It's his family as well. And, you sit there and you try and rationalize, well, how did his wife not know? Well, I would guarantee that my husband would never do anything like this either.
Did you see
next to him every single day?
Jackie Oliver said that Kathy Allen started her own YouTube channel.
So
what? What?
Kathy Allen started her own channel. I seen the other night. Just happened to come across it and seen it.
Well, you know who's helping her with that?
So.
Rainbow Bright. The girl that had the multicolored hair, her best friend.
I was thinking Rick Snay.
Oh, he's another dumbass too.
Yeah, no, I know.
I sent you what he wrote to Carter.
Oh, it's insane. Absolutely.
You've got an audacity to go after the second highest ranking.
I was just going to say, when you go after the second or the highest cop in the state, you're not the brightest bulb in the box. Julie, thank you for being here. And
Sure.
and I appreciate that very much. And it was a nightmare, you know, but this case has been a long, hard fought time and covering all of it. And but being there for the families and actually hearing them say thank you. And you know, one of the things that got me was when you're talking to people and they look at you and you're getting ready to introduce yourself and they go, "Oh, you don't have to introduce. I know who you are." What?
What are you
Oh,
talking about? Sorry.
Mom,
Robin,
post that Robin. Yeah.
Robin says Kathy Allen should be ashamed of herself. I will never believe she didn't suspect her husband of being involved. I suspected him as soon as I saw a photo of him, and I had not heard any evidence.
Okay, so Mom and I have talked at lengths about this because I go back and forth on how I feel about spouses in these situations.
They've been together for over
And
26 years, and they're high
the
school
one thing I'm
sweethearts.
going to say with my psychology background that I have, you never truly know anybody.
That's
You
a
think you
fact.
do. You think you know them, but you never truly know them. And the thing with people who commit these kinds of crimes is they are very good at masking and pretending that they're normal when in fact they're not. So,
And they're
and
very,
that
very good
when
at
you,
compartmentalizing
yes,
the crazy.
yes,
Look at Ted Bundy. He had a relationship. He had a girlfriend. Look at the Golden State Killer. He was a cop, for God's sakes.
yep,
I mean,
BTK.
you
yep.
look at
They had
BTK,
families.
family man, had kids, you know, and was out murdering and doing all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Look at the guy from up there in you know who I'm talking about, Nicole, the other one, the Gary Ridgway.
Oh, yeah.
He had a family. I mean, come on, people. She's right. You don't know people. We think we do. We
You
think
do.
we
And
know,
you
but you
know,
really don't. And no, Anna
it's
did
very
not speak
difficult
at the
to
sentencing.
well, and it's very difficult to believe that the people whom you love are capable of something like that. That's not our human nature. It's not the way that we think or feel. And so when you are faced with all of these things, you it's almost like your brain can trick you into believing whatever it is this person's telling you. So if he was saying, I wasn't there, I didn't know, whatever he was feeding her, it's easier to believe that than it is to believe that he actually did it.
Melissa Wildcard, Anna was there, but she did not do a victim impact statement.
No, she did not. And when I didn't expect her to.
I didn't either.
Do you know how hard it is to do that? Carrie did it, and she was the first one to do it, and it broke me.
Oh, it did me too. Oh
I mean,
my
it
God.
broke me. It brought up all of my trauma from losing my son, and I didn't lose my son the way she lost her daughter. But you sit there and you listen to this mother and her gut-wrenching emotion of what she's gone through and how her life has completely gone bonkers because of this man.
Once
And
again,
again, you know, Carrie is forgotten in all of this because for years people disrespected her, didn't feel like she should have a voice because of her past. Are you giving me crap here? I mean, seriously? And I'm talking to Tobe. He's the one who said all that, you know, on Hannah's video, Hannah
yeah.
Shakespeare's video, you know, and he's like, well, you know, she's not part of this. She's Libby's mother.
No
Libby,
matter the circumstances that she's in or what she's been
that
through
is
in her
right.
lifetime, you still cannot
You're
say
blurry,
that,
Frank.
even though I don't understand what's going on. Come on, focus in.
Yeah, it's not focused. There you go. Now you are.
Even though Carrie had issues, her and Derek had issues when Libby and Kelsey were little, you cannot hold that against them. Carrie did the best thing for them girls.
She did.
She
Her
let
and
them.
Derek both. Her and
Yes.
Derek both. And Derek was in court, you guys, for the
Yes.
sentencing.
Yes, he
He
was.
sat right there. He sat right to the side of me. Yes. So Derek was there.
Man,
And
he's
here
a big man. I was
He
like,
is a
what?
very big man. And here's this man
Whoa.
who I touched him. I walked up to him, and when it was all over, and I put my hand on his shoulder, he looked up at me, and I just told him, I said, my prayers are so with you. And he thanked me. You know, this is a man who I have imagined all of these years. We've never seen him. He doesn't talk. He doesn't come out. He also was treated horrifically by social media and all the horrible things that were said about him. He's the one who's out there walking the trails trying to find his daughter while she's being murdered.
Mom, do that Cecil Hotel comment. Didn't see pics of their weird men after K&A saw RA. Yeah.
Ow.
So I'm just going to put this out there because I've watched this video
God,
of Bridge Guy, I don't know, with Mom, I don't know how many times.
so many times.
And I couldn't sit there and testify to you in court that that's the man that was convicted. I can't. Now, if they showed if they showed a different video in court as evidence that's more clear, that might be different. But from the video that was shown to the public from the very beginning when they released it, that is not a very great picture.
Well, let me tell you something. I sat directly behind the family throughout the whole trial, and there was a great big picture of Bridge Guy blown up on a poster board on the back wall next to the judge. I saw that and I said, I'll be damned. That is Richard Allen, because we weren't there to see that. So like, if you're just going off of what's been on the news, right,
that's a very grainy picture, and it's
right,
small. There's no way to like, and as you
so
expand it, blow it up, you can't tell.
Right.
So, and again, you have to go back to, I think it was Gail that said it earlier. It's cognitive dissonance. Look it up. Your brain will believe
you see a picture
narrative,
right,
before it's going to believe the truth,
right,
because of your emotional connection to that person. So just because his wife and daughter might have seen better pictures, and also just because he was pictured there on the bridge doesn't necessarily mean anything either.
I think
they could rationalize it that way, is what I'm saying. So you have to take all of that into consideration, and you're not in their shoes. So it's really easy for us to sit back here and say, oh, well, how did they not know? How could they have not known?
Well, the way I look at that whole situation is that he did tell her that he was at the trails.
He did, yeah.
But he did lie and did not tell her he was on the bridge. And then when, do you see what I'm saying? And then
I'm not laughing at you, Frank. I'm laughing at the comment Mom just put up. So.
Who put up?
I put it up. Before just said that, that was your husband, Nicole, you'd likely know. And I
would like to think that I would.
I tend to agree.
But
and if you guys go back and remember when I had Mac on, when I had Cheryl McCullum,
mm-hmm.
The great CSI from Georgia, guys, famous. Cheryl said, when Doug Carter put that video out and talked to us about, he wasn't wanting us to look at Bridge Guy's face.
Mm-hmm.
What he said, look at the body, look at the mannerisms, look how he walks. Somebody knows. If that's your dad or if that's your brother walking on that bridge, you're going to know. If you look at that person and you see that body type, would you know your husband on a bridge if you saw a picture of him or a video of him walking, Nicole? More than likely you would know.
More than likely, yes.
I'm not saying 100%, but more than likely. That was her point. Then put together a voice where you're hearing their voice.
And Kristen got to hear his voice for the first time in court yesterday.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
And it was the voice on the audio.
It is Bridge Guy. That voice is Bridge Guy.
Yep.
And I know people are like, well, that's because you want it to be.
No.
No.
I heard the enhanced audio.
Yeah, I
It was
like,
him.
oh my God. Yeah,
I
no,
was
I
in
heard
the
his voice
courtroom when they
yesterday.
played
He
the
had to
enhanced
say his
audio and
name.
video.
He had
And
to
did
say his name and spell it.
y'all realize that
Yeah.
when they pulled the video, Libby had her phone down by her waist and was moving, and it happened just to swipe to the left just a little bit, and that was when they caught Bridge Guy. And that's the only time he's on the video. A split second video shot on the video is the only time you see him on it. That's why we only had 1.2 or 3 seconds of the loop on him on the bridge, because there was no other footage of him on the video. Yep.
Well, if you guys want to hear Richard Allen's voice, go look at Fix Solve's video. He's got them up. They're still on his channel. And he's got the video of Richard Allen with Kathy on their vacation, where they go down and he's on a ski lift. You can hear him speak there. And I'm telling you what, you guys, look at how he was like Mandy says, playing pool. His posture.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like Bridge Guy. And he was dancing around that pool table like he was 20 years old. And that was 2 months. 2 months before the murders happened.
Mustang.
That's not who we saw for the first time in court. Remember when they brought him in and he looked so awful, and he was so bad and eating Post-it notes and all the things. It wasn't the same guy. He changed his appearance.
Mm-hmm.
He did all of those things on purpose. He changed his physical appearance. He gained a ton of weight. He did all kinds of things. Why? Just like Kelsey said in her victim impact letter, guys, that she wrote to the court, he had to look at his face every single day all over that town because they papered it. They papered it with Bridge Guy. It was everywhere. And Richard Allen saw that picture of himself every day. And he's like, I got to do something. They're going to know. They're going to know this is me. So
just like when he saw the first picture of himself on TV, what did he do? He called in the tip on his own self. Mustang asked me, Frank, I heard the crime scene wasn't where we thought it was. Is that true? It is exactly where it was, because I even went out there and marked the spot because I had the coordinates. I marked the F tree, guys.
Yeah, you did.
I marked the F tree.
Yeah.
I had the coordinates and I went out there and marked it.
I did do a video. I did do a live after the verdict, guys. And we talked, go back and watch my live. We talked a lot about Kathy Allen, and we talked a lot about what she may or may not have known. And I'm not one for throwing her under the bus, but at the same time, it's hard to accept what she's facing.
Mom, put this question up by LA.
Hi, LA.
She's good people.
So she asked, I understand the defense attorneys are going to defense attorney, but what, if anything, are the legal boundaries around how far it can go? So your question's a little vague. But if you're talking, you as a defense attorney, your goal is to give your client the best possible defense, whatever that is. Sometimes when they've pled or they've confessed, then it's to get them the smallest sentence that you can possibly get them, or rule out mitigating circumstances, or whatever that case may be. If you are introducing a different narrative than what the prosecution is putting forth, you have to have proof. You can't just come in and say, Goofy over here did it and not Mickey Mouse. You have to have evidence that puts Goofy wherever it occurred, the time that it occurred. You have to follow that up with evidence or it's inadmissible. So it's not using a third-party defense, in my opinion, the majority of the time is pointless because you don't have that kind of, unless it truly is somebody else.
Exactly.
Now
But you've got to be able to put.
But you have to be able to prove that without a reason, beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's where it comes in. You can't just come in here and say, Odinism this and Satan satanic this, and that's not plausible without evidence. And
yes,
I don't remember, but there was no kind of artifacts at the scene, right? That would have led to anyone thinking that
about Odinism.
Yeah,
and all this sticks.
What?
The F tree that Frank's talking about that's got Libby's hand. The side of her hand was bloody, and we believe that she tried to put herself, support herself, and slip down. However, but it made this. It looks like an F. That's what they said.
The side of her hand,
but that's not what the forensic guy said. He said it was a blood.
And you have to go with the forensics, folks. I'm sorry.
And so, and then the sticks that he used to cover the girls, they believe that those were runes.
Yeah.
Again, that's what's the word?
Speculation.
There you
Speculative.
Go. That's speculative. You can't prove that one way or the other.
What confuses me the most, because I firmly believe that Andrew Baldwin knew he did it. And how do these attorneys get around, if they know for a fact that he did it, but how do they get around that? That's what I want to know.
So if legally you can't. If
I've read about it, but
he didn't take the stand, so they didn't have to ask him.
I've read about it, but I'm still a little bit confused on how they can get around it.
That's how they get around that, is you don't put your client on the stand, because then you don't have to ask them. So you never yourself have to admit whether you believe or know that your client is guilty or not.
Can the family now say that the case is over? Yes, they absolutely can. The family bashers need to be paying really good close attention, because you don't want to get pulled into civil court over this. And
I done warned R&M, Angela Sadowski, on one of her lives. I got in her chat, says, you need to worry about if you're going to be charged with anything instead of being on this damn YouTube shit. And then she pinned my comment. I said, you interfered in a murder investigation. You got access to Richard Allen's psych information.
Bye, Gail. Love you
Bye,
so
Gail.
much. Have a really great Christmas. Nicole, she's the one who made my beautiful walking stick. The big one.
Yep.
Yep. We all got them. She's such a great lady. Have a very Merry Christmas, Gail. Thank you for being here. But well, as far as Baldwin snuggling up to Richard Allen in court, they're going to, a lot of defense attorneys do that with their clients, especially to show support for them if they're being emotional or whatever. I don't have a problem with that at all. He didn't have anybody show up for him in court yesterday. No family, nobody came. So according to the reason that I've heard, that was all done by Rosie and Baldwin. They told him to not participate in the pre-trial or the
pre-sentence investigation
because of his appeal. So because he was to not do that, they thought they were going to go even farther and say, don't come to the sentencing because you're not accepting the verdict. You're not accepting the verdict, so therefore you're not going to be there to watch him get sentenced. And I sat and watched that woman briefly on Vinnie Politan say, she's a private investigator that's supposedly been working the case for 2 years. I'm like, I don't know who she is, but she made the comment that what family's going to want to sit there and watch him get sentenced to 130 years for a crime he didn't commit. And I'm just like, what the heck,
Ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, to even give these people a voice on national television is a joke. Zach says, can we put him in a cell with Sarah Boone and a
I hear
suitcase?
back feed. I hear back feed again.
It's probably my kids.
Okay.
Sorry, they just came home.
Well, there wasn't nobody there to protest the sentencing. I can tell you that. There was only 2 people in the courtroom that were basically for the defense.
Hush.
And they sound like Blade.
LA says that private investigator who had that bombshell information didn't even know what city her bombshell information occurred
That's
in.
what I was telling you about earlier. Yeah. Yep.
Oh my God.
It was so funny because there was 2 people there for the defense team. And they are all part of Andrea Burkhart's little cronies.
Hey, Jamie.
And they sat right next to me.
How are you, my dear? It's so good to see you. And I am relieved too, because, you know, the doxing and the harassing, it's all got to stop. People need to grow the heck up. People need to move on, find something else to do with their lives, and stop harassing these victims. These victims' families, and they're victims, and they are being re-victimized every single day by these people that continue to push this. And that's what happened at the press conference yesterday. Basically, Nick McClelland got up there and asked people to just quit it, to just stop.
And
Accept the verdict, accept the sentence, and let this family move on.
And I'm going to request for anybody that's watching or listening, please do not contact the families for interview. Please do not do it. I've already spoken to the family, and they want some time away from all this to try to get back to some normalcy, have good holidays. And she told me they would get in contact with me when they're ready. And I told her, I said, whenever you need anything from me, you know how to get a hold of me.
Yep.
And no, Lisa, the snake lives in my house.
Oh, God. You sound like your mom with her spiders.
Oh, God, no. I don't even go to my mom's house with the spiders. I can do the snake. I can't do the spiders.
I can't do no snake. No.
So.
You guys and your exotic pets.
It's not my snake. It's my son's.
Oh, that's even worse.
But I hold it.
Oh, no. Because them things could turn on you at any time.
It's an itty bitty baby.
What kind is it?
She's like that big, a California king. Yeah.
King?
California
Yeah,
king.
Okay.
She doesn't know that I have a baby corn snake.
Doesn't surprise me. You'll probably have cockroaches here soon.
And then corn snakes get pretty big too.
Huh?
I said corn snakes get pretty big too.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones. Is that the ones that eat other snakes?
Yeah. Did you guys see this?
We're not getting into that case.
Oh God,
man, that case
is so deep and so wide. I just know.
DJ K's got a point. Indiana lawmakers need to hold social media platforms accountable and fine them if they don't stop the harassment, the doxing, the bullying, the threats. I just think that the victimization of victims' families needs to be stopped. And that's what needs to happen. We have to be a voice for the voiceless. These families were on a gag order for 2 years. They couldn't talk about what was happening to them.
And that's what Nick said to me yesterday. Remember when he walked up and said, "Yeah, what's going on, Frank?"
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah, I know who you are. I watch your shows." He said, "You know,
he watched all of us."
Yeah, he said,
he
know why I can't."
All of us. Can you imagine the prosecutor watching us? I'm just like, wow.
He said, "You guys are one of the good ones," and he said, "You understand why I couldn't talk?"
Nancy Grace is going after the people attacking the families, and she has been putting them putting it out there of who they were. Trust me, you don't want Nancy mad at you, of all people.
Oh, no kidding.
No, that's one person that you don't want mad at you. You can't just arrest people, Mandy Lee. The families can't just call the police and have these people arrested. There have to be laws that are broken. And that's what we're talking about.
Well,
here.
and unfortunately, our social media laws are not keeping up with the times.
No.
They're so
all worried about the money.
I mean, it's
all about the money to them.
Yes, Melissa, higher ups watched our lives. Are you kidding me?
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
They were all watching us. The investigators, all of them. They were watching social media.
Prime example.
In the groups, they were watching. I'm sure they were reading Reddit.
You want to say hi?
Hey, Fallon. How are you?
Prime example. Who in the hell put me and Kristen on Channel 13 WTHR in Indiana? Remember that?
Yes, yes, yes.
That drunken Hennessy gave me and yours live to WTHR, and they were playing it on the news. And I'm like, who in the hell gave them permission to do that?
Well, Hennessy doesn't need permission. He does what he wants.
I was like, Lord. I was hot about that when I called you immediately. Remember that? I said, our show was just on the news, and you was like, what?
Don't dox me. I don't know who come on. Go. Hang on. Randy's fine. I saw him yesterday.
We all went to lunch together.
Randy's great.
And we all went to the doghouse.
Get out of there.
Yes, we did.
Ate some pizza. We had some walking tacos. We had some wings.
Yeah. I do hope these creators pay the price.
They better go back and listen to the press conference because Nick made it very clear that they're going to prosecute.
Did you see that?
Well, I'll call. I'll just send everything over to Holman. Somebody's got to send a video to me so I could send it over to Holman.
Yep. CJK, just send that through Discord. Put it in Discord or whatever.
Yeah.
To Frank. Send it to Frank. He'll get it all emailed over to Holman. I'm here to tell you they are serious.
See, True Crime Design was pretty good about 3 years ago. Okay. And then all of a sudden, when the crime scene photos came out, she completely did a 360.
Oh, she was nuts from day one. Sorry. She was nuts from day one.
I mean, it's no different than these people accusing Derek of being a snitch, and that's why the girls were murdered. Let me tell you something right now. He didn't snitch on nobody, and I know this for 110% fact because I pulled all his paperwork. He was not an informant, none of it. And y'all were saying, well, we can't find the paperwork. Well, why did it only take me about 3 minutes to get it?
Jamie, we know very well that you're not crazy, and we have always had your back, my dear, and you are always safe here, just so you know. Thank you so much for speaking out and all the stuff that you spoke out about. They go after those of us that speak the truth. It's just that simple.
Exactly. The people that know the truth. Like I said before, they make all this up because they ain't got nothing better else to do. They don't have a job, and this is their income.
Yep. So, and that's,
As you can
sad.
see, me and Kristen, Sleuth, Miss Deb, and several others, we do not push for anything on our channel. If you want to donate, that is on you. We don't push that.
Nope.
Because we're not here to make money. It's nice to have the extra bucks in your pocket, but
That's not why I do this.
Exactly. I have to look at other people that are in our chats. they're in the same position as we are on Social Security. You know, we live our lives the way we can with the money that we make.
I didn't start this YouTube channel for that reason, but with that being said, we've been on here, you guys, for an hour and a half. Are you still wanting to talk?
Hey, I'm all ears.
I got
I was just gonna say, because I'm fine to go as long as you guys want to, but I just, you know, how do you guys feel about, and I know this is I wanted to ask this yesterday at lunch, Frank, and I forgot, but I know we have to go by the law, and the law was 65 years was the maximum sentence he could get for
Per
each
charge.
count.
Right.
Do you feel that 65 years is a just sentence for the murder of a 13 or 14-year-old girl?
Well, before he answers that, what do you consider a just sentence?
That's what I'm asking. Do you
Okay.
feel that's a just sentence?
I mean, I have to go by
in the number of years.
I have to go by what Indiana law is, and the max is for a murder charge is 65 years.
But I'm just saying, should that law be changed? Should it be more?
Yes. Yes. Because she did not say without parole.
Right. She did not say without parole. So does that mean in 33 years he can get out?
No, because if you add, because he got 65 for each girl, and that's 130 years, right? If you do 50% of that, you're still doing 65 years, and he's 52 years old. And
even though she said they're served consecutively, he couldn't possibly get out at 33.
No, he can't. He will never get out. But she did make a boo-boo that she's going to have to go back and correct. She did say after his time cut for spending time in jail and all that, she did say 120 years. She's going to have to
go back and fix that.
Yeah, she's got to go back and fix it.
She will. She will.
Because I was watching Lauren Hidden True Crime, and she said she confirmed it last night. I said I thought that she did say that because it confused me when she said that. I was like, "What do you mean 120 years? I mean, if he gets good time, that's 2 years off of his sentence, which would be 128 years." You see what I'm saying?
Right. I didn't ask Nick why he didn't go for the death penalty.
I was going to ask him.
I know, but I think that I think it's pretty much a given. I don't think that he felt that a jury would find guilt if it was death penalty. I think that you really, really have to have not that we don't have super strong evidence in this case, but I think for a death penalty case, it's got to be even stronger.
Overwhelming.
Think about it as if you're sitting on that jury and
I think if they'd have an eyewitness
that has to, put somebody away to death, you would want so much evidence, like you wouldn't want to have any kind of doubt in your mind.
Right.
And so that's where you run into when they bobble back and forth on whether they're going to charge with the death penalty and make that an option.
Hi, Deb. How are you, my dear? And you do donate yours to charities. And I love the fact that you did the Toys for Tots, or I think it was the Toys for Tots.
So does Kristen. She gives it to her grandkids.
I do. Mine goes to my grandkids.
Yeah, that's what I believe. SP 74 says, I don't think Nick amended the charges until the confessions. I believe that's what happened.
Yep.
I believe that's what happened because that was my question. I wanted him to explain his reasoning for him believing there could be possibly other actors. That's why I asked that question.
And he did.
Yes.
After he did all the confessions,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hey, Delphi dummies.
Oh, Lord, he's in here.
Yeah.
He's a funny dude.
Yeah.
He makes some funny videos. I'm looking through the chat here.
Yeah, I'm just reading. But no, I just wondered how you guys felt about that. I was happy that he got the maximum, and I did not feel strongly that the case was strong enough without an eyewitness to place him. Nobody said Richard Allen, that's Richard Allen. That's who I saw on the bridge that day. They all talked about Bridge Guy, and they saw Bridge Guy, and we know they saw Bridge Guy. But Gray Hughes, no matter what you think of the man, if you go and watch his video that he did with his maps, with his little pegs, with the timeline, there is absolutely no doubt in anyone's mind when you watch that Richard Allen is Bridge Guy. He shows you with Richard Allen arriving, where Richard Allen goes, where the girls go, who saw who when and where. The girls that were here that saw Bridge Guy as he's heading to the bridge. Richard Allen places himself there. Said I was there. Wearing clothes.
And remember this, Sarah Carball, 3 weeks after the murders happened, she finally saw the photo of Bridge Guy, and she said, that is the guy I saw on 300. And that's when she finally called it in.
And no matter what, Richard Allen didn't see Bridge Guy. He saw everybody else, but he didn't see Abby and Libby, and he didn't see Bridge Guy. Why?
Because he
is Bridge Guy.
Right. And Nick made it very clear. He lied in wait.
He lied in wait. When that was one of the things that I thought was so profound yesterday, was listening to Jerry Holman on the stand giving his impact statement basically for the state about the case and why they felt he should get life in prison because of what he did and how horrific it was. And he talks about how he laid in wait for those girls. And it was like premeditation, and he went there to do this horrific act. And I think one of the things that I found out that I didn't realize was when he was talking about the crime and the fact that he made those girls undress on the other side of the creek and walked them across the water, the creek naked. Those girls were walked across that creek naked in February in water up to here.
20-degree water. 20 and he did go after the defense. He said the defense manipulated the law for their narrative.
Yep. Absolutely he did. And that the fact that he did that, he said, and then he the heinous nature of the crime, how terrified these children were, and the fact that one of them had to watch the other one die.
Yep. He
said that on the stand. And I think that was one of the reasons why we heard Fran Gull say when she spoke to him, when she sentenced him, and she was like, I've been doing this for 27 years, and this ranks right up there with one of the top most horrific cases I've ever had to adjudicate.
GP says, anyone want to answer why Nick said that there could be something still to the KK? That's because Greeno asked him about Anthony's shots, and he said if Richard Allen wants to come out with any information, we'll look into it.
They have no, at this time, at this moment, yesterday, when he answered the question, Nick McClellan said, we have no evidence of any involvement with the Keegan Klein or
Anthony
the Klein and the Anthony Schatz profile with the Delphi murders. Period. There's no evidence. It's just what Nicole's been talking about all night. Just because you think a narrative is a narrative and you think that this has got traction, if you don't have evidence, then it's a nothing burger. You can't fabricate evidence. You
I
can't.
never called it a nothing burger.
Well, I know, but you. Yeah, that was. Yeah. Well, that was when
That's when you have to. I think one thing. So, this is a term that we use in the education system. It's called implicit bias, where we all have biases that we don't necessarily recognize or know. And that can play into these types of cases for investigators, for lawyers, judges, juries, all of those things. And
yeah,
so
confirmation bias.
when you have such strong feelings about a suspect and you think that they're guilty, rather than looking for evidence, you just try to prove that it's them. And that's the wrong way to investigate. You have to look at the evidence with objective eyes and not your bias.
I got to answer the comment. Necessary evil said, but he didn't say there's no evidence that someone else was involved. Yes, he did. He said they did not find any evidence whatsoever.
Yes, he did. He said that, yeah. And he said they have no evidence of any other actors.
That's right.
No evidence of anyone else involved. But if anybody can come forward with that evidence, or if Richard Allen comes forward and says, hey, I got evidence that other people were involved with me, they can take it up at that point.
Right.
They don't have anything at this point in time.
That's why I asked him that question during the press conference.
They are still going after the people that were all involved with the sex, the Kleins, what am I trying to say? You know what I mean? The largest whatever in the state of Indiana. CSAM. Sorry. Yes. They are still going after. They are still prosecuting the CSAM case, guys. That's never going to end. That's never going to end.
Those take years.
Yep.
And years.
And that's,
so they're
like
still
I said,
doing that.
And that's specifically why I asked Nick that question, to clarify why he said that in court.
Yeah, that was brought up. They gave him a chance to apologize to the family because he said in one of his confessions that all he ever wanted to do was tell the family members that he was sorry. And she asked him,
do you have anything to say to the court? And he said no.
He said no. And they, the family knew that he wasn't going to say anything to them because the man has showed no remorse. He showed no remorse through the entire process. None. And even the judge said, you've been sitting here through this entire trial and now these sentencing rolling your eyes at me.
The whole time.
Who sits and rolls their eyes at the person who's going to sentence them to jail if they're found guilty?
Shaking his head.
She said he'd been doing it
through the whole trial. Right.
And yeah, I mean,
Rosie didn't even have respect for Judge Gold.
No.
That was telling her in Allen County, you don't know anything about this case. I'm like, oh, hell no, you just did not say that. I was like, oh, my God. I would have sanctioned his ass right there.
Oh, absolutely. He should have been held in contempt more than once.
Right.
When he looked at her in court and said, I don't care if those photos got released or not in her chambers, I'd have thrown him in contempt then.
Lord. That's a man with no heart or soul, if you say that.
Absolutely. And he's a father.
Right.
He's a father, and he said that. I'm just like, oh my God. These guys you said they were trying to make their chops after this case. And that they were dragging this case out because it's a cash cow. And we know that they've made over close to $800,000 on this case. So
that was the reasoning for them dragging this whole thing out like they did.
Yeah. He made a lot of money.
And somebody said, well, they asked to be pro bono. If she would have accepted them to be pro bono, they'd have been broke within 6 months.
Do you think that they ordered a special Bible for him yesterday? Because that was one of the biggest Bibles I think I've ever seen.
I couldn't tell you.
I
He's
couldn't
trying
believe
to
it.
he's trying to use
He walked
religion.
into that courtroom with the Bible on his chest and his arms up here, because I know he was shackled at the waist, but he had his Bible like this. I mean, that Bible was as big as his chest. It's huge.
Well, you know, I believe in God and Jesus and the higher power, but I don't go to church because I can talk to him here at home. Okay. My opinion is, and anybody can doubt what I say, but God does not forgive you for murder because that's one of the commandments. Thou shalt not kill. That'll instantly get you sent to hell.
Well, you know, it's like I said, and I said this before, it's between him and his God. If you know, whatever, that's between him and God, but he still has to answer for justice here on this planet.
Right. What did you think of Josh's
I thought Nicole, Josh is Libby's cousin who's 21. They were, I think, the same age.
Yeah, they were.
Absolutely. Yeah. So they grew up like brother and sister.
Tara's son.
And it's her aunt. It's Libby's dad's sister's boy. And so he gave a victim impact statement, and I thought he did fantastic. And when
Point right at him. You're going to rot in hell.
You're going to rot in hell. And I thought that was awesome because I thought, you know, he got his emotion out, and it was good for him.
Yep.
That's what I think. A lot of people who've never gone through this or, you know, studied these kinds of cases, the trial and this part is very cathartic for the victim and their families. There's a lot of closure that comes with this.
There's not going to be any closure for the families on this.
Well, no, not fully, but I mean, it's, you know, they no longer live in the unknown. They at least have some answers. If not, I mean, they probably will never get all answers, but it does, you know, close a certain chapter where hopefully they don't have to relive it as often anymore. But yeah, being able to have your voice is pretty powerful and a little bit healing.
Yeah, John said you're a dead man walking. Josh said that too.
Yes, you're a dead man walking. Yep.
He sure did.
There is hierarchy among criminals.
Among thieves.
Yes,
there are. Yes, for sure.
Yes,
hey, Randy. Hey, Randy. It was so good to see you yesterday. I'm so glad you came and I got to see you and you were at the press conference and lunch. It was wonderful. Nobody knows what prison he's going to be. He goes to an intake prison system.
RDC. It's Receptions Diagnostic Center.
Yeah, he goes to the Reception Diagnostic Center, and they have to evaluate him and do all kinds of stuff, and then they'll decide where they're going to put him. And honest to God, because this is such a huge profile case, they could take him out of the state of Indiana if they really feel that he's going to be.
No, they can't.
Yeah, they can because
they can.
Did Chris Watts. They took Chris Watts out of Colorado and housed him in Wisconsin for his safety.
Yes.
Because
how do they do that when it's a state case? Who pays for that?
They do it for their safety.
Right. No, but you're not listening to me.
I don't know who pays for it. I'm just knowing it happened.
He went from a Colorado prison to a Wisconsin prison.
Yeah.
So does Colorado pay Wisconsin?
Maybe.
To house him?
Yeah.
You can't. I was always under the impression you couldn't do that unless it was a federal case, and then you can go to any federal prison in the country.
Yeah. No, they can't. They did that, and they will put him where they feel, you know, that he's going to be the safest, I think.
He's going to be in protective custody. I mean,
he will be in protective custody because seriously, they do not. I mean, they know that he will be looked at by criminals as the low life, the lowest of the low, because of the crime that he committed. And he's so high profile that these people will know, and they will know his name, and they will know who he is.
This picture's been blasted all over the world.
It's everywhere. So they have to take all that into consideration. But like Kelsey said in her letter that I read to you guys in the beginning of the show, may he suffer every day that he remains on this planet. Maybe he'll be looking over his own shoulder now, knowing that somebody's laying in wait for him in the showers when he goes to shower his feces off of him that he rubs all over himself.
That's just that was for attention.
Oh,
that
yeah.
Whole
he
damn
also
thing.
ate it. He did all kinds of really crazy, nasty things, And that to me was complete for show. So, I'm
reading some of these comments in here.
Somebody just said that they got to get the transcripts of the trial, and they only have to pay a $250 fee.
And then they add that to Richard's tab. That's how that works.
Yeah. But somebody else also asked, will we ever hear the interrogation videos and stuff? Yes, that stuff will come out. The only thing that Nick did yesterday was he asked the court at the end of sentencing if she would seal the crime scene photos forever and the autopsy reports of the girls and the mental health records of Richard Allen. He wanted those sealed forever because those are things that the public does not need. And the public never needs to see.
I'm already putting my request in for the enhanced video and audio because people actually want to see and be able to hear what was actually said with the girls and everything.
Because absolutely.
And it's not in Carroll County. It's not in Carroll County, guys. So don't even bother calling Carroll County.
Yeah. Some people, I don't think people realize that on the video that we never saw and we always heard about this 43 seconds of this video, but they never told us. If you remember and I can't think of his name anymore, but you remember the ISP guy that told us it's like watching a TV and you can't see what's happening off over here and you can't see what's happening off over here, even though there's something happening off over here.
Yeah.
All you see is what's here, right?
Yep.
Well, we didn't know that Abby sees Bridge Guy and gets terrified because she sees the gun and she runs. She doesn't walk, people. She runs past Libby and gets behind her. Don't leave me up here.
Yep, because she knew he was back there.
Don't leave me up here.
Tobe Lesenby is he's a commander with the Carroll County.
Tobe's still around. He was standing there yesterday with his he's still a police officer.
Yeah, he's the commander. He's the second in charge up there.
Yeah. Tobe's still there. Burston, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mustang. You guys always come through. Lady Monet says Richard Allen will roll his eyes at Bubba and will get immediate justice.
Yeah, tossing salad. You know me. Frank gonna be Frank.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but it's the truth. If you have never watched any prison movies or anything like that.
Truth Exposed says people who are pro-defense on this case are Delulu. Yes, we already know that.
I wonder if Judge Gall turned them into the ethics board after all that crap happened last year.
I wish they would have.
Oh God, Shelly just said the same thing. RA might like his salad tossed.
God.
Stephanie, you don't, because it's his personal medical history. It's nobody's business what his mental history is. It probably has no bearing on the case whatsoever. So
Yeah.
why do we need to know any of it?
It's
And
a
it doesn't
HIPAA law.
matter. He's been diagnosed with depression and anxiety since he was a child or a teenager or his whole life, whatever. That doesn't make you a killer.
Nope.
I'm sorry, you guys, but being depressed and having anxiety doesn't make you go out and murder and cut the throats of 2 little girls. Many people suffer from depression and anxiety in our society, and I'm one of them, and I would never.
Oh,
do
the
something
anxiety
like
hit me hard at the doghouse yesterday. I was like, man, and Kim looked at me and said, "Are you all right?" And I said, "No." I said, "I'm in a new place I've never been in before. I see people I've never met before. I am feeling uncomfortable."
Lady Monet said, "I have a friend that thinks Richard Allen was framed. We have chose to not discuss this case."
How can you? I mean,
there's no way that this person could have ever been framed. The amount of people that would have had to have been involved in framing him, and we talked about this before on my channel and on Frank's channel. I'm sorry, but if
every
you're
level of government would have to be involved.
You're gonna frame Ron Logan, who's dead. Yeah, you could frame Ron Logan so easy.
I think the nail in his coffin was the white van. That's what sank his ship. When he confessed to seeing the white van and it spooked him, that was all it took.
He also said how they died.
Yep.
And even though it was out there and people thought they knew or whatever, it was never talked about.
You have to remember, because I remember when I first came on here with you and we were talking about evidence and how upset people were because the police weren't releasing things. I imagine he probably told them things that nobody else knew.
Yep.
That's exactly what my point is.
So how does he get those details in the middle of a confession and it not be a real confession?
Right.
Because nobody else would know those details other than the police
and him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So.
And they're trying to say that Dr. Wallet told him about the white van. No. This confession came out before Dr. Wallet even saw him.
Yep. And the fact that he said how he killed them, and the fact that he stayed with them to make sure they were dead because he didn't want them to suffer.
And he's also said he had to kill them because he wanted to spend more time with his family before he was actually caught.
Because yeah.
So squeaky wheel. A lot of child molesters die in prison because they have separate wings for them in a lot of prisons. So they are in protective custody with criminals of their own kind. So they aren't mixed with general population, and that's for their own safety.
Yep.
Now, that doesn't mean that people can't get to them. It just makes it harder for people to get
look
to
at
them.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
There you go. I was getting ready to say that.
In the shower, so
they got to Jeffrey Dahmer.
They sure did. And got beaten to death with a mop handle.
Yep. So it does happen. And just because they don't die in prison doesn't mean that their life in prison is comfortable.
Fun.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of this justice that other prisoners would give them would just be brutality for the rest of their life.
Street justice.
Yep. It's not necessarily death.
Beat the shit out of him every day.
Yep.
Yep.
Steal their food.
Yep. Take their commissary.
Yep.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's, there's a lot of ways to.
And a lot of the times the guards just kind of turn their eye a little bit.
Joe Schmo, his first confession he did in November 22nd of 2022 to his wife. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I've got
Yeah.
every
I don't know who
document.
Joe Schmo is, but I don't know that he sat in court and listened to everything and all the evidence. So
I did.
we're going to go with who did. And yeah.
Yep. Plus, the timing of the white van was never communicated at any point. Allen was the first to mention it, and detectives determined his admissions to be correct.
I asked Jerry Holman what was it that he heard.
Wait, who believed that they were kidnapped?
All I call them scarecrows, Nicole, because you know the scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz had no damn brain, right?
Well, I just read that like they believe these girls were kidnapped. Who was kidnapped?
They believe that they were kidnapped. They were taken away from the scene.
Technically, they were kidnapped because did you know
Yes,
that if you are forcefully moved
yes.
even a foot
Yep.
from where you are, you've technically been kidnapped.
Yes,
Yep,
they were
exactly.
kidnapped when they
They
were
were
forced
kidnapped.
off the bridge.
But
yes,
it was just funny the way that statement was written.
I mean, my suggestion to people, if you want to get into this kind of line of work that me and Kristen do, and a lot of us other creators, learn about the laws. Learn the laws. We did. We had to learn them. We had to learn to understand them.
Joe Schmo, you're allowed to have your opinion, but in the court of law, he was found guilty. Therefore, he is guilty. Whether you like it or anybody else likes it, he's guilty.
When a man comes out and says that he did it 61 plus times, like me and Kristen said, it has never been heard of a person confessing 61 times and been found not guilty. I just need 3 or 4 times a false confession. People that think
these confessions were coerced, 61 of them?
No way.
Give me a break, people. You're reaching. You're reaching.
There you go, Joe.
Well, and there's a lot that goes behind getting a false confession. So go do some research on.
He gave details.
Yeah,
false confessions are not given to your mother. I'm sorry, you're not. I've said this so many times, but what man is going to go to his mother and tell her what he did to those girls?
And then turn around and tell her.
And then say to her, why would I tell you that if it wasn't true?
Right.
And
right. So false confessions are
not a false.
The false confessions, that's a police error, typically.
Yes.
The investigators who are interrogating you cross boundaries, feed you information, deny you basic human decency, bathroom privileges, food, water, all those things, and wear you down.
I did ask Holman during the live yesterday what made the light in your head go off to make you believe that you had him. He said there was several different factors, things that he was saying, the way he was carrying himself, the way he was reacting to things. I mean, when they were doing the search warrant at the home, the things he was saying to Holman, I would have been like, damn, he's sitting here right here confessing to me now without literally saying I did it.
Yep.
I was like,
no, none of his confessions were coerced, and Tony Liggett didn't lie.
No.
So
and it had nothing to do.
I don't buy that. Tony Liggett didn't lie under oath.
And it had nothing to do with the election.
Yeah. I mean, you people out there that have that narrative that think that this investigative team that gave up their lives for nearly 8 years to find this man was gonna just run out there and grab the guy at CVS and arrest him so that Tony Liggett could become sheriff of Carroll County. You guys are nuts. You guys are freaking nuts.
That was just pathetic.
And you were down there in Texas waiting for JFK to show up.
Jesus.
QAnon people need to go find something to do with themselves. And I'm serious. I'm so over it. God.
It's like they're reading things and picking things out of there and not reading the whole paper. You see what I'm
The
saying?
abduction had nothing to do with this case. Nothing.
I often wonder if people understand the amount of evidence that's in these cases.
There was a lot more evidence we
And-
don't know about.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that, like, you
Yeah.
know, when we go back to the beginning, when I first started talking to you about this, and, you know, people are like, why don't we know this? And why don't we know this? It was none of our darn business.
Right.
It was none of our darn business. And
The only
in
business
order
that
for a
wasn't
police
the 12
officer
jurors who
or an
heard it.
investigator to keep their investigation on par, they need to hold it close to their chest and only
Exactly.
share details with vital people who they know aren't going to go release that. Because look what happened when evidence and stuff was released during the trial.
Hey,
Everybody
Frosty.
went hog wild. So to sit there and say, you know, they, you know, that they lied or they did this, this, and this, we haven't seen all the evidence. Frank has. He was in the courtroom.
Yep.
But none of us have.
I think that the two damning things that, well, the first thing that was a jaw dropper is when Dr. Core was on the stand. And he said after he did the autopsies for months, it made him wonder what kind of weapon was used. So he would go home, go in his garage, pull out knives and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden he picked up a box knife and he said, I'll be damned. He said, I believe a box cutter was used. And remember what Richard Allen said in his confessions.
What did he use?
A box cutter.
From CVS.
And boy, Rosie was hot when Core did that. He said, so you couldn't write a summation or anything? He said, no. And
Yeah, you couldn't have told us this before you got on the stand?
He's like, no, it's just my opinion. Why write that if it's just my opinion? Opinions don't mean shit in a court of law.
Nope, they don't.
And that's exactly why Core said that.
Truth Exposed said his lawyers went to visit him, saw those Odin patches on the guards, and came up with a defense.
Bullshit.
Nope, they came up with the Odin defense from Richard Allen.
Yeah.
Yep,
Trust me.
Yep.
Richard Allen followed this case. He followed it from day
Online.
one.
Yep.
He knew that there were people online that were talking about the
Odinism.
the Odinists, and they were looking into to Brad and to
Patrick Westfall, Elvis Fields.
Westfall, and all of them.
Yep.
That came from Richard Allen.
Johnny
Trust me.
Messer. Yep.
He's the one who brought it up to his attorneys. I guarantee you.
Ron Allen is not dumb. So
Richard
Allen, sorry.
You
And
got
he's
wrong
no
on that.
dumb man. That is blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
not
God,
dumb.
he's not dumb.
He's not dumb.
No.
Because once they released, like I said, once they released the still photo of Bridge Guy, he saw that. He immediately tipped in himself and said, I was there to try to get ahead of it. And
Yep.
he did a damn good job of it for 6.5 years.
Yep, he certainly the hell did. And trust me,
The lawyers did
is
design
a lot smarter than anybody gives that man credit for, and he is a manipulator, absolutely a manipulator.
So his lawyers made the defense, but he's the one who told them about it. How else would they have known?
Yes.
This is what
Like,
happened.
you
They
guys
went to
don't-
interview him in prison. The first thing that came out of his mouth is my wife all right? And they were like, well, what are you talking about? He said, the Odins in here telling me if I didn't confess, they were going to kill my family.
Yeah. And there he is manipulating the narrative.
Yep. And that's where they came up with the ploy to do the Odin thing.
And Jerry Holman, I've been calling him a master manipulator for months and months. And yet yesterday on the stand, when Jerry Holman was talking, he called him a manipulator. And he said he used He has used religion to manipulate his mother, to manipulate his wife into supporting him. He has used manipulation with his attorneys. This man is an actor. He is a damn good one.
And the problem with him playing crazy is the fact that he didn't go crazy until
he got his discovery.
Like, none of the things he was doing had he ever done before in his life. So that kind of throws his crazy out the window.
Yeah, he's not crazy. He told him he wasn't. He told everybody.
Yeah.
In the confessions.
He told everybody, I'm not crazy.
Dr. Martin.
I'm just pretending to be.
Yep. And another thing, the bullet.
Yeah.
How they said, oh, they didn't find the bullet for 2 weeks. Bullshit. They found it the same day they found the girls. You're going to sit here and tell me that law enforcement broke into his house when nobody was home and took one of the rounds and went out there the same day the girls were found and placed it there? No, because they said when they found the bullet, it was actually, the head of it was buried in the ground. The only way they found it because the sun had hit the brass and it made a reflection. And that's how they found it.
I haven't banned somebody in a long time, but I just did.
Who was it?
Joe Schmo.
Oh.
Done with him.
But he was in the courtroom thrice.
Oh, God, I know. He was waiting for us to start having an intelligent discussion.
Yeah, we just want to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was trying to start shit.
We have no facts.
Sure was. Yeah.
I live with facts.
But yeah.
Mom's the emotional one.
Listen to her. Truth said, I told y'all they were Delulu.
Michelle, all I know, there was a reflection off the bullet. That's how they found it. I mean, I can't give you exact words, but.
Yeah, Squeaky, I think you're absolutely right. He says, I think there's a good possibility that Kathy Allen knew, or I don't know about knew, but thought it might be her husband in the video and on the posters. But he explained it away to her.
Yep.
Hey, I went and talked to them. Nothing came of it.
Right.
Because he told her he was out there at the trails that day, but he never told her he was on the bridge. Right. She got pissed at him in the interrogation.
Interrogation, yes.
Yep. You never told me you were on the bridge.
Yep. He said, you know me. You know me. You know I wouldn't do something like that. Yeah. That was the manipulation. Exactly.
Kissing up on her. You know me. I love you. He starts manipulating her.
Yep. And she said, explain the bullet. How did your bullet get out there? Then that's when I really think she knew it was him.
I think so too. How do you, why would your bullet be out there?
And I think that's, in my opinion, the most damning evidence against him.
And that in the van.
And how do people decide, oh, that he's innocent when the ballistics match? How do you just
Kiwi, I think it's possible that he was in my chat, but I will tell you this, when I was in court and spent the entire day in court and I had a direct eye line to him and he kept twirling around in his chair, and whenever there was a sidebar or whenever he was
looking back at Kathy
he looked directly at me that day, and the way he looked at me and looked through me, it bugged the heck out of me. It just made the hair on the back of my neck stand up because he did look straight through me, and I feel like either he knew me or it was weird how he was looking at me. So I've often wondered. I know, but like I said, I do believe he was on Reddit, going through the Reddit subs. I believe I do. I think he followed this case, and a lot closer than people think. And most of these killers and these types of people do. And he was living in plain sight. He had to know what was going on in the case. He inserted himself in the case, because he came forward to Dan Doolin within hours of his picture being shown. He knew that he was seen.
And it's another thing. everybody's asking about the old man sketch. Okay. Remember when they came out and said, we found him and he's been cleared. And they wanted to know who it was. And I said, it was Richard Allen. You guys are not understanding that they didn't know his name at the time, but they said that they found the guy on the bridge and they had cleared him. And then they're going after Kathy Shank.
Yeah. And you know, Kathy Shank is,
Man,
I met her and I talked to her. She is the sweetest lady. She gave up all of these years of her life for free to the county of Carroll. You know, she was a retired file clerk who came back and said, look, I want to help. I want to help this case any way I can. And she started taking every piece of paper that had to do with this case and filing it and scanning it and filing it and scanning it. It took her all these years to get through all these pieces of paper. And she's the person who found the missing tip.
And if it wasn't for the name being used on the tip, Whiteman is his last name, is how she caught it.
Because she knew there was a Whiteman Drive.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, this is weird. And then she took it to Tony Liggett and she said, do you know about this? No. And Richard or Holman said, when he was talking about it, he said she took every time she found something, or no, I'm sorry, Nick said this. Every time she found something, she would bring it back to investigators, and every time they always knew about it. They okay, we know it, we knew about that, but she was so good at it. The only time they didn't was the time.
Yep. And another thing that caught my ear is when Richard was being interrogated by Steve Mullen and Liggett. Remember when they showed him the picture of Bridge Guy? Remember that? And he said, well, if that came out of the girl's phone, that's not me.
Yep.
And then they brought his wife into it. And he said, you leave my wife out of this. She has nothing to do with this. So are you saying you did have something to do with it and your wife didn't? Or explain yourself.
Exactly. But I mean, yeah, what person makes that comment when you're shown a picture? Is that you? Well, if that came off those girls' phones, no, that's not me.
Well, then how'd you know about it? Then it came out of a phone.
Yeah, how did you know that photo came out of a phone?
Because you've been following this case.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, she's amazing. Kathy is an amazing woman. And I thanked her yesterday. I told her, I said, we wouldn't be here today with this sentence if it wasn't for you.
Yeah, and she said, I watch you too faithfully.
And she told me, she goes, I followed this case and she goes, I can't watch much. She goes, but I watch both of you. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Yep.
So, she's
and
amazing.
I talked to somebody today. I can't remember who I was talking to, but they think that Kathy is not eligible for the reward money.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. There's something in writing.
Kathy Shank, Melissa, she's the lady who found the missing tip that Dan Doolin took of Richard Allen.
She was the family advocate at the beginning. She worked for DCS at one point in time. And then she retired and she came out of retirement to do this voluntarily.
Yep. She became a file clerk. And she did it for pro bono. She didn't get paid.
Right.
She just gave up her time, hours upon hours every day, sitting there going through all the paper and all the documents in the case. And yes, Richard Allen's Google searches are a nightmare. He was Googling horrible kidnapping movies, videos. I mean, his Google searches were, and that never came in.
They did bring it in a trial about him doing all that, though.
But did they talk about them at length? Like, I didn't think they got to bring it all in.
No, they didn't. They didn't bring none of the Google searches in, but they did bring it up that he was Google searching this and that and all that.
Because that I thought was, again, when you have a computer in a household, you have to be able to prove who's searching what. Who's doing those searches.
And we got the email he was doing to that too. Yep.
Absolutely. Because that's part of the thing that was part of the problem with the Casey Anthony case.
Melissa, there's nothing on your computer that's a secret when somebody who knows computers gets a hold of it. My husband works in IT and he'll be the first one to tell you.
You cannot hide that.
Even if you think you deleted it, it's still there.
Yep. Just pull that hard drive out of there and you're done.
You are done. You better smash that hard drive and burn it, because I'm serious.
You can delete it from the history, but you cannot delete it from the hard drive.
You want to go look up bad stuff? Go to the library.
And same with your phone.
Right.
It's the only protection you got.
She never knew people looked at what we Google.
Yeah.
I said before, if they, thank God they know that I have a true crime channel, or they would be at my door knocking with some of the stuff that I've had to look up.
And Jackie makes a good point. They go do the search at the home. They find 19 cell phones. They were looking for one specific cell phone. They found all the others,
but not the one he had that day.
Exactly. Why?
Where's the phone you were watching the stock ticker on?
Right.
Oh, I don't know. I think my wife traded that one in.
Uh-huh.
Kept all those other phones. Did you, Ricky?
You're right.
Yeah. I know. It's
By the way, truth exposed, my ass ain't never gonna die. I might die physically, but I got a list of you motherfuckers I'm haunting to the day you die. The ones out there that are causing trouble.
Yeah. Those are all things that are extremely big red flags for law enforcement. But I did ask Jerry Holman, I said, what was the one thing that made you think, hey, I got the guy? And he's like, I'm going to have to think about that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to find out. I can't wait for him to tell us.
Oh, I did. He already told me.
What did he tell you?
He said it was some of the things he was saying, the way he was responding to questioning.
So it was his body language.
And things that he was responding to, the things he was saying. He said, I know I got him now. I mean, I would have said I got his ass in the car when he was telling me, are you detaining my wife?
But when he said it was over, he goes, it doesn't matter. It's all over. Yeah. He asked him, what did you mean by that?
Right.
They're in there searching his house, and he's like, it doesn't matter. He said, like, if we break anything,
right,
Rick, we'll replace it for you. Or if, we damage anything, we will replace it. He goes, it doesn't matter. It's all over.
And then he's like, his wife had to go to the bathroom, and he says, are you detaining my wife? And Jerry says, no, she's going to the bathroom. Do you want me to take you to her? And he said, no, it doesn't matter. It's over. He knew he was caught.
He did. And he, like I said, this guy had been looking over his shoulder for nearly 6 years. He had been living in plain sight and going about his business, but he'd been looking over his shoulders. When am I going to get the knock on the door? When are they coming? And when they did, he realized that it was up.
Yeah, he was done.
He was done.
And they still have their car. They never gave the car back.
They never gave him his car?
No.
I wonder if she'll get that back. You think they'll keep it?
It's hard to say.
Because it's part of the case, right?
It's evidence.
Well, I mean, they'll keep it for now because of the appeal, right?
I don't know how that works. Honestly, I don't
either.
I just don't know how that works.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, guys. Well, it's 10:30, and I'm
tired.
I'm tired. So, but this was a great live. I'm so glad you guys both were here for it. We've had almost over 200 people all night long. So it's, people were caring, people were wanting to listen to what we talked about today. But,
I will say something real quick. There are two people, me and another individual, that have direct contact with Jerry Holman. And that person was in the chat. If you guys see or hear anything referring to these photos, please contact her or me directly so we can get in contact with Holman.
Yep. Seriously. Absolutely. And if anybody's threatening family members, or you see anything going on with the threatening of the family or whatever, please turn it in.
Yep.
Because this stuff's got to stop.
Exactly.
Abby and Libby,
they're smiling down right now, guys.
they got the justice that
they're probably up there like, why did it take them so darn long?
We tried to.
We left it for you.
We gave it to you. Wow, it took you guys long enough. But no, they are smiling down. And next week, you guys, is Libby's birthday.
Yes.
So please keep the family in your prayers and your thoughts, because Christmas is a hard time for them anyway. They've got a new bundle coming in February because Kelsey's going to be having another baby.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be another joy for them. She's having another girl, and I think that's pretty amazing. So
right. And to let everybody know, myself will be working on the Jordan Sofer case, and me and Kristen are going to tag team the Amber Crum case.
Yep.
And I did talk to Ruckus today, and there is what kind of photo? What was I talking about?
Age progression.
Yes, there is an age progression photo.
Amber Crum, Nicole's a little 2-year-old girl that was killed. Her father's still trying to find justice for her.
40 years ago.
40
years ago. Yep.
And as you guys well know, I'm going to be covering Evansdale hot and heavy.
Right.
And I'm going to have Drew Collins on, Elizabeth Collins' father. I met Drew and spent an entire day with him, locked in his pickup truck. No, I'm kidding. But no,
she's not kidding. She was in his pickup truck.
I was in his pickup truck, but I'm just saying that he's a really, really amazing human being. He really is. He's been through a lot, and a great guy. And I really want to help him with his daughter's case. Keep him in your thoughts too, as we approach Christmas. This is the month that his daughter and her cousin Lyric's bodies were found. So, 12 years ago, you guys, 12 years he's been waiting for justice for his girls. So, I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday. For those of you that don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you have a safe and happy New Year. I'm not sure when I will be on again.
Same here, guys.
But not next week, probably because of the holidays, but afterwards, probably. So, because I'm working on quite a bit of things. So, for the new year, Nicole and I are going to be working on some cases together. We've talked about that, and we're going to be picking those out. So, yeah, guys. Thank you again for hanging out with us for so long tonight. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry that I was late. But yes, please make sure you like the video so that it gets out in the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe and sign up.
And remember, this is probably the last show that we'll probably do on Delphi unless something extreme comes up. Delphi is put to rest now, guys, on our end. Okay?
Yeah.
So whatever those scarecrows are doing over there, if they're doing something that needs brought to law enforcement's attention, please contact us and we'll take care of that. But as far as doing any more shows, let's put this case to rest.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's time. It's time to give the family peace.
Yes. But until next time, Kristen, love you. Nicole, it's good seeing you again.
Good to see you.
Love you guys in the chat. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Have a
Yep.
good night. Merry Christmas,
Yep.
everybody.
Bye.
Merry Christmas. Night, Nicole. Love you.
Love you.
But thanks, guys, for hanging out. I will see you all again real soon.